All right, next up, I want to show you how to export a simple image sequence. So for that, we can just go into the scene node and drag from this and create a render node. So we're going to go over some of these settings later, but for now, if you just want a simple image sequence, you can set this from flipbook to sequence, then just pick the resolution that you want. So I'll just select 1080p. And for the image format, I recommend EXR. That's the industry standard. You can leave it at single layer. Just select the directory where you want to save this image sequence. So I just made a new folder called exports, just name it O1, and then you can name it. By default, it will name it based on the name of your project, but I just want to name it, let's say, explosion underscore. And then you want to select how many frames total you have. So if I just watch my simulation over here, so I think I'm going to do around 160 total frames. I wanted to start at frame 0, and frame stride is basically frame skipping. This is something we're gonna use for flipbooks, but for regular image sequence, you don't wanna skip any frames. Leave everything as is, but before you export now, you wanna go into the render tab. So right now we're in the scene tab, but I wanna go into render, and it says attach camera to the render node. So here it says camera, we can drag out a new camera, and this will show us what our actual rendered view will be. So we can move this back and just frame it nicely, make sure that we're getting the whole explosion. I'm also going to turn off the ground. So I just have it on a black background. Go back into the render node and just click export now. But as it's exporting, you'll notice that it's squeezed, right? It's not the right resolution, it's a square, and it's stretching the explosion. So to fix that, we need to go into the camera node and adjust the display resolution here as well. So you need to set it to 1080p also. It will adjust your preview. So now you can frame your explosion the way you would like. And now you can go back into the render mode, say export now. You can overwrite the previous export. And now it's actually correct. This little preview window is still a square, but I know that it's exporting the correct resolution. And I can tell that the explosion is not stretched, so everything is correct. So I'm just gonna let it run through. When it's done exporting, I'll go into After Effects, double click and go into the folder where we exported this. Select one of the frames, make sure that you check Open EXR Sequence, import, and this will import the entire sequence. Now by default, I have my After Effects set to import sequences at 24 frames per second. You can right click, interpret footage, main, and you can set this to 30 frames per second and then drag it onto this little icon here to make a new composition. And then here is your explosion. So you can just hit 0 to make a preview, check on the speed, make sure everything's good. Now the color is not right, it's too bright. So you can go under your effects and presets and select the extractor effect and apply it to your sequence. And this will fix the RGB, and now you're gonna get the correct colors just like you had them in Embergen. In the following videos, we're gonna also use this extractor to get separate passes and do compositing, because Embergen by default will export all of the different passes into just one EXR file, and then you have to separate those passes inside of After Effects with this extractor effect. So we're gonna get to that in the later video. Just wanted to show you the most basic way to export an image sequence. So just don't forget to change the resolution in your camera node, set the number of frames, select the file format, set the resolution, set this to sequence, and that's it.